Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lyds and we're back for some more Thronebreaker, and last time we successfully appear to have dispelled whatever curse it was that was afflicting the Blackbrook Vale area, and apparently a lot of it came down to the water source. So actually I'm kind of curious, because it seemed as though it was our friend, our recently acquired friend, Barnabas, who was the one who found out the reason for that, and that was optional, that we recruited him. And so if we didn't have him, would we have just failed at that encounter there, or at least not have found the reason why their, all their expeditions, their colonization efforts in the area had failed? Because what I was gonna say is that, of course, in this component of the game, in Mahakam, there's been this long-standing sort of, I don't know, balance that we've been trying, or this tightrope that we've been trying to walk between trying to do what's best for us and our efforts in the fight against Nilfgaard, and on the other hand, trying to also play nice and win the favor of Bruverhoob, the leader of the dwarves, and see if we can get their assistance in those war efforts, because oftentimes it seems those are two forces pulling us in opposite directions, and early on, we did one or two good things, and then we did a few bad things that probably won't make him very happy with us. So I was trying to say, or trying to gauge just how close we are to perhaps getting back in his good graces. But and supposedly what we just did was one of them in the previous encounter. It's just that I initially thought, well, maybe that's kind of an automatic thing. You're going to get it no matter what. So is Brewer really going to give that much weight? But maybe by having Barnabas, it's possible. And if you don't have Barnabas, then that is legitimately an encounter that you can fail. But anyways, obviously, I walked back over here to this report because it was a place where we saw the option of getting some additional resources at the cost of losing some morale. We didn't want to do this when we first encountered this because we thought, okay, we expected we were going to walk into a very difficult encounter, didn't want to have low morale for that. However, after successfully finishing that previous encounter, we're not just on neutral morale now, we're actually on high morale. So I feel like we can probably take a hit here to our morale, go back to neutral, and it won't be that bad for us. And, you know, getting up, we don't need that much gold. I mean, 15 wood it's not all that dramatic, but that is actually the most scarce resource for us right now. So I think this is not a bad time for us to be doing this, because it gets us back to neutral. And I think what we have for our agenda for today, outside of getting those resources right there, is probably this encounter here. It looks like it's some kind of cave, and so this might also be a difficult encounter of some variety. But, you know, going into this encounter on neutral morale, not bad. And if we had, if it turns out it's not very bad at all, and we could have done it on neutral, then, you know, why not? Why not take the hit to our morale right now, rather than just reset our morale and not get the additional benefit out of it in the process? If you follow my logic there. Maybe didn't word that, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. It would have reset our morale if we had done this encounter anyway, so why not reset our morale by getting some additional benefit? Because this looks, well, I mean, this does look rather daunting. It's a pretty freaking huge cave mouth. Huge build-up to it as well, and this is even bigger than Keltalus's lair, it would seem.
The rumors Gabor had overheard were true.
Ah!
Scouts returned with news of a cavern at whose mouth lay rotted logs, an indication that something of great weight may have been rolled inside. Chests full of gold, for instance. Then again, paw tracks clearly showed some beasts had made the cave their home.
Okay, couldn't be that simple, right?
Time. Enter or scramble back down,
said Gascon, rubbing his hands together for warmth.
Please hurry. This frost is downright biting.
I mean, we have to give it a shot, right? We have to give it a shot. We can't just retreat now without even knowing what it's all about.
We've scaled this high. Foolish we'd be to descend empty-handed. Fall in behind me!
The queen took the fore.
Sunk cost fallacy and all.
Hand, torch in the other. The flickering flames' glow illuminated the cave's interior, casting long shadows. Meve was certain some horror would leap at her at any moment.
Okay.
And she was not at all wrong.
Here I was thinking, like, oh, maybe they're just gonna be like, oh, and it actually turns out it was totally safe and everyone was concerned, but it was all for naught. their concern was all for naught, you know, is just run in there, grab the loot, and be on our way, no problems at all. No, I'm afraid that is not the case. What is the issue, though? It's another Shalemar, because that is what this card is in Gwent multiplayer. Let's see. Yeah, it would appear so. Forgotten treasure. What else might these forgotten, inaccessible caverns hold? A magical rune-imbued weapon forged centuries past? Sapphires, rubies, and topaz, carved and polished by long-dead dwarven jewelers? Perhaps immeasurable mountains of gold? Well, to find out, the Lyrians had to only slay the monsters that dwelled their depths. Okay, so eliminate the crazed Shalemar. It's just one round. And, well, special rules, we need to destroy this guy, so let's check it out. How tough is this going to be? Okay, let's see. Before we look at our hand here, what can we learn? Whenever an allied unit is destroyed, reduce this unit's timer by 1. Then play a random unit from your deck and damage it by 2. If this unit's timer ends, Meve wins the battle. Whoa. Okay. So, is that instead of outscoring in that our opponent here, or is that just an alternate win condition that we can also consider? It seems like damage is absolutely the name of the game here. Fortunately, for the most part, that is something we're set up to do here. It is going to be a little bit tough to make. Oh, I was going to say skull work, but we already dropped that in favor of Dazbog Runestone, which is potentially not as much damage, but it's good at singling out one specific unit, and it seems like that's what we're going to need to do here, so that is nice. Sounds like the Infiltrator is probably not the best use for them here, because we're trying to go all-out damage. I mean, Isbel, we're trying to outscore them. It's maybe not a terrible idea, but Knickers we don't want to have in hand. Alchemist might be able to use to weaken an opponent. We can probably still do better. Barnabas, a little bit of a gamble, but perhaps worth taking that risk. I mean, this is just about as good as it gets from a damage standpoint, unless we drop Isbel, because we would perhaps like to get Gabor. There he is. I was like, what? Did we take him out of our deck? I didn't think so. Or a second bomber, but second bomber might be a little bit overkill. There we go. Okay, I mean, yeah, basically perfect for damage, so I think we go this route. Let's see. They go first. Every turn start summon. We've seen plenty of these guys before.
Anyone here struggle with strong reservations when entering monster-infested pits? Asking for a friend.
Alright, well, we should have the damage necessary to take this out. In fact, the Runestone alone is almost sufficient. We do, of course, have leader ability. I mean, it's so close, I feel like, well, why not just destroy you altogether and save leader ability for a subsequent turn, especially because we've seen whenever an opponent has a Necker, generally that means there's a whole lot more coming soon, and they at least start off with the same amount of power, so that could make for a really potent leader ability, but I guess we'll do it here, and that extra damage from the Arbalest almost makes that enough. I mean, we could Slinger, and that would be sufficient. Yeah? Guess we could have done Runestone plus Slinger. That would, I don't, well, no, that takes 2 turns by definition. This works.
Thing about slings,
Oh, right, we do need to do this, though. So be it. Okay, brings another one out, and it damages it by 2. Does it show the timer? Oh! Oh, that timer is very big. Oh. Okay. Wait. Okay, the fact that it just says eliminate the crazy Shalemar perhaps suggests that we must win by doing that. This is why I was thinking that perhaps we would want to wait to use leader ability until they had more 7-powered cards on the board, but let's see. I mean, we, of course, will get our leader ability back eventually, but every 3 turns on turn start, randomly damage enemies by the portion of Shalemar's current armor. Armor 6? Why does it say armor 6 when you have 8 armor? That's weird. Okay. Well, we would like to set a row on fire as early as possible. It looks like this melee row is going to be the place where most of the neckers are going to end up. So I'm thinking we probably do that next.
I smell a leak.
Because here come more of them. Okay, the armor goes up. Oh, also, wait a second. You destroyed one of your own cards. Does that count? I think it did. It's a normal... Wait, hold on. Thirsty Troll, consume an ally, and damage an enemy by its power. Who did they... Destroy one of the Arbalists, I think? That's unfortunate. That was, the 2 Arbalists were definitely our most useful guys we still had on the board here, because they can still deal damage, whereas everyone else had already done their thing. Well, I mean, you guys can still do stuff, but it's not that relevant. They certainly do have the biggest unit right now, so this might not be a bad time for Becker's Dark Mirror. We have the lowest unit. It's maybe not the preferred target to get the boost from Becker's Dark Mirror, but still may not be a bad idea. Could also move other stuff into the row with the fire. Though we might just want to keep as many neckers in that row as possible, because once this fills up, they're going to get boosted, and we just want to keep as many cards on the same amount of power as possible, I think, for our next leader ability. So, what do we do also? Dabor, which could definitely destroy something here. I don't think there's any rush for Becker's Dark Mirror here. I think it's pretty clear they're going to have more highly boosted cards than us. So... I mean, otherwise, we could just destroy one of them, but we kind of just want them to get as many of these neckers out as possible, because these are probably the best fodder for our destruction. In which case... I mean, we keep them in the row with fire, for what it's worth. Some of them will get damaged down below the amount of power they're currently on. So I guess you could make the case for this and just keep these guys on 7 power, and they'll summon in more on 7 power here, they'll summon more on 7 power here, and then by the time the rows fill, I'm hoping we'll have leader ability back and just go for a super huge damage everything. There they go. Okay, they consume more. I would rather you'd consume something other than one of those neckers, but down to 17, so I mean, yes, they are kind of helping us to a certain extent. Destroy your armor. I'm just not sure how concerned we are about this, to be honest. Also, if we use Becker's Dark Mirror, now we're hitting one of you. I mean, I don't like the armor, but we're at least boosting up one of our guys, and not one of your guys again. It's a card that actually might be kind of relevant. Whereas boosting a footman here just means that replacing this with a random card from our deck is probably not going to be as effective. What would we even be looking for there? I mean, Isabel could give us some value, but that's about it. Anything else with no deployability is not going to be very useful. So... I mean, we could knock more neckers into this row, but this time, again, go for the ones that have armor specifically so that we keep cards on 7 power if possible. Then we risk this row getting full, because it's getting pretty close. I want to save Barnabas, because he has some potential outcomes that could lead us to damaging every unit that they have, so the later we do that, the better. So, I'm going to try to wait for that option. I guess we do this now. Don't love it. But we'll go for it. So yeah, in theory, the amount of points that we scored doesn't really matter. As long as we get rid of this timer. Skull might not have actually been that bad, because they do have some damage. So that is worth considering if they do beat us here. Leader ability is on next turn. Okay. Do we just line up even more Neckers? Perhaps? Perhaps?
Ever have a storm knock out one of your teeth?
Now they're definitely getting boosted, though. That was probably too many. That was probably too many. Yeah. Let's do this switch.
We must trust each other.
I mean, Reynard is more points, so that is... Yes, in some ways a good thing, but I'm just not sure it matters at all when all that matters is if we destroy as many of their cards as possible. Yeah. I mean, if you guys get boosted back up to a 7 because your row is full, that'd actually be kind of nice. But the rows are full, so they had to discard a card from their hand, which is useful. Alright, leader ability is back. There are some 5s on the board now, but there are definitely more 7s than there are 5s. We'll get a tiny bit of extra damage from you. But I think the thing that the reason why I was so keen on doing this, because if we do this, then we can follow up with a Northern Wind, which I believe will be enough to destroy basically all of these damaged Neckers. And that could be pretty huge, I think. So let's go for that. That was the setup we were looking for. It does also basically mean that they get their entire deck out here. Like, almost entirely. Yeah. So, that, I mean, that's kind of interesting. We have not had many occasions, many encounters in which we've seen the entirety of our opponent's deck. That looks like a decent target. Yeah, it seems like these 8-power Ice Trolls will probably be the next units that we'll go after. Okay. That's worth considering. And what number are they at? Now they're at 4. Okay. I'm curious, actually, if they have to discard a card because their rows are full, if that counts or not. Should be able to... I mean, we might go Barnabas next to see what we get out of you. That has enough damage to destroy one of you. That may have enough damage to destroy multiple, depending on... There's some potential synergies here. It's going to be kind of close. Fire can definitely help, though. So now you're down to a 6. You're down to a 6. Okay. So is it worth Barnabasing here? I think it probably is. I think it probably is. I mean, we'd love if they had some low power units right next to each other, but for the most part, these Ice Trolls are split up with Thirsty Trolls in between, which just doesn't quite set up the double or triple kill potential or triple kill setup from Alzur's Thunder that we might have otherwise been looking for, but let's go for Barnabas.
Feel any burning? See a local healer or wise woman?
Maybe. This was kind of what I was thinking of. I mean, it's only 2 damage, but that is not insignificant when we're talking about getting some cards down into the 4 range and other cards down to the 6 range, and you know, it means overkill damage from Gabor becomes more relevant. It means the 5 damage from onto adjacent units from Alzur's Thunder could be more relevant. Otherwise, I don't think we have enough damaging bronze units in our deck here. I mean, Stray's Bomber, it's a little too late for that. And the Slingers don't have any room to move their card, so that's not really going to help us either. And Becker's Dark Mirror, yeah, 25 damage is probably hitting them, not us. It would, but it worst situation is hits this 22 power Thirsty Troll with 6 armor, which is not great because it's not really getting it into removal range. Slightly better it hits this one, but it's still probably too big for us to be focusing on that. So I think it probably is you. Okay. Yeah, they're down to 4. Yikes. This is going to be a very close call. We need to get 4 kills from 3 cards. Or they need to do a kill for us, which, since we've clogged their rows, I don't think is going to happen. Oh, but we also... Are we going to get Lyria really back? We are not quite going to get Lyria really back, are we? And I think we've established that now that it does not count when they discard a card. No. So, still on 4. The flames will help us out here a bit, and that might mean the fire could potentially destroy this ice troll. That'd be a great way to get a quote-unquote free kill. I mean, obviously, it came from our bomber, but I mean, we could go Gabor, damage you, overkill you. That's 2 kills. Or, you know, you should probably get a kill on one of these guys up here, so they don't have the fire, so it's a little bit tougher to take them out. We'd also love to have a way to get... I mean, this is like... That's almost a triple kill. It's a double kill. I mean, do we just let fire potentially finish the job there? But we do like targeting low power units with Gabor, so that overkill damage on the left hook may also be able to destroy another card. That plus that. I mean, it's probably still Gab. No. Technically, we should wait on Gabor for that reason. I don't think we've established as to whether he can actually trigger this, deal any overkill damage to another unit multiple times. Because if, for example, we go after 2 power unit, 5 power unit, we still have 3 damage left over. Can we hit someone else with that 3 damage? If so, it's not quite enough to destroy something else, but if the fire weakens someone further, then it could become enough to do that. So, for that reason, I think we might deliberately stall a little bit on Gabor. Instead, go after you. Oh, I forgot we can... Ooh, right. It's not just a single burst of 8 damage. We do have the control. Okay. So then... You guys are weak enough already. Do we weaken a 6 further? I don't think we're getting leader building back, right? We would need 1 more turn for that to trigger. So... Is it one of these ice trolls? And if so, it should probably be the ones that are closer to a weaker card, like this Shaelmar and this Thirsty Troll, rather than this much higher Thirsty Troll. Okay, that's weird that it went out now, but okay. All right, you're gonna get boosted from your row being full, which is unfortunate. So that is not going to remain, not necessarily going to remain as low as that. Unless it gets hit by the fire, as it did just then. So it is actually 1 point lower, which means Gabor does have sufficient damage, but I mean, at this point, I think we might kind of need to do this. And then, well, but then, okay, how many more do we need? We need 3. This is 1, 2, and then Gabor has enough for a 3rd. Okay, we have enough if we do this. We should have enough if we do this. Part of me was like, well, but we know these guys are not going to go any lower. Well, still, Gabor has enough for killing blow here and on either of these guys, so we'll actually have more than enough kills. And who knows if Fire's going to do us some more favors here. Just as long as they don't, like, get loose from anything, but... I mean, that certainly helps. Definitely have the damage now. Already was enough, just need to make sure that we choose the correct punch. So we punch you. That's sufficient. Now let's, in the name of science, let's see. Can we punch again?
To be close now. Come on.
I don't think so. Based on how it automatically ended there, I think that was just the game saying, okay, your turn was over. And that was enough kills to get to the treasure trove.
As soon as the last beast had fallen, the Lyrians took to seeking out the treasure. Soldiers dispersed throughout the caverns in a rush, penetrating every last corner. Finally, one called out,
Got it! Got the treasure right here! Treasure! Shiny stuff!
A number of steel-reinforced chests lay up against the cavern wall. Meve blew the dust from the lid of one and lifted it with some difficulty. She had hoped for gold and jewels, bars of Mahakaman steel at the least. Instead, she saw thousands of time-tarnished copper coins with a hole through their center.
Huh? What is the significance of that? Does that mean they're not usable in any way, shape, or form? I mean, technically, or at least in modern times, you're not allowed to melt currencies in most cases just to turn them into metals, but in this case, might be able to get away with that and just get some copper. I mean, that's still useful, right?
What's this bloody crap? Tokens of some sort?
Surprised we're getting a cutscene or cutscene equivalent out of this, so maybe something more will come of it.
Aye, that's right. Holy Goldens, we call them. They're, currency in Mahakam. Get our wages in them. Use them to cop victuals and hooch.
Okay, so it's legitimate money. It's just money from Mahakam, specifically. I mean, that's to be expected, I suppose.
What of arms, armor, tools? Nah, all that's given to us. Clan provides it. Is that what you need? Weapons? Oh, feel the Egypt now. Brought you here for no reason.
I mean, surely we could still use the money to purchase things like weapons and armor, right?
Yet these tokens, they can be exchanged for other coin, can they not?
Or that.
Temerian orens or Novigrad crowns?
Aye, doable in theory, but not at all clever. Rates are crap. See, the elders keep them low to make life difficult for dwarven folk. Discourage them from leaving Mahakam.
Okay, it's a bold strategy. Deliberately tank our economy so that people don't leave rather than seek employment elsewhere, and that doesn't really check out, but okay. So, in that case, we can ask what to do with them, or common dwarves don't use gold? Okay, this seems like this is the primary plot-driving question. This is more side question. It's been a while since we've had these types of dialogue choices before, but, let's do this.
Common
Let's learn
dwarves
more.
use no gold. You cannot be serious.
Yet I am. What good's gold to them? Clan gives them all they need. And victuals and hooch beyond need, they get for tokens.
Yet you trade with humans. Gold coin you take for your goods, the coin must serve a purpose. What is it?
Yeah, this is a little
They
odd.
hoard it all. In vaults. Great piles. Down bottom lie ducats dating from the reign of that dozy ham-shanker King Dagrid.
But why hoard it if you're not going to do anything with it? If it doesn't have any value to you, then there's no reason to do that. Just doesn't really check out. Logic is pretty inconsistent.
And you do not put it to use, acquire
Right.
anything for it. Then it's true what folks say, that you love gold too much to part with it. Hoard it for pleasure, as dragons do.
Point of fact. That there's pure drivel. Gold's a metal like any other, just yellow. We hoard it for our safety.
Okay. So it's a backup in case things go wrong?
Your safety. I fear again, I simply don't follow.
It's an economic backup plan. If the entire continent's economy collapses, then they liquefy, or they either liquefy all their gold and sell it, or just use that currency or whatever coinage it is in its current form.
Couldn't it be simpler? Soon as human folk get it in their heads we's a thorn in their side, we'll spend it. All of it, in a jiffy.
Okay, now that doesn't make much sense either.
Excess coin supply, that's called. Matter of days, gold will be worth less than sawdust.
Yeah, I mean, again, if your objective is to tank the economy, then sure.
On their arses. there'll be nothing left of them. They'll cave in faster than a mine shaft with rotten props.
So you buy or you sell things of value just so that you don't acquire anything of immediate value in return. Only things that could potentially sabotage another civilization in case they get mad at you. Seems like that's a whole lot of effort for something extremely speculative and very far down the road. It's just, again, it makes very little sense that you would go to those extents to make that happen.
Why are you all ogling me? With human folk for neighbours, we dwarves got to be damn vigilant, as sheep round wolves.
Yeah, but there are, like, hundreds of ways to more efficiently use resources than that. So that's, you know, it's kind of weird, but okay. In that case, what do we do with those tokens, though? We're not going to hold on to them for hundreds of years and just wait and see if there's a time and place to destroy our own state's economy.
So how can these tokens serve me?
We must trade them. Even should we get a pittance, it will be something. The soldiers demand their pay.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, your bums out the windy. Fighting men want full dixies and tankards of hooch. Coins but a means to that end.
Okay.
What do you suggest then?
As I've been saying, the tokens we use to purchase nourishment and mead, and what you've got in those chests, why, that'll do to fund a feast the likes of which Mahakam's not seen since Brewer was sworn in as Elder-in-Chief.
Ah, okay. So could we potentially basically hold some kind of party? And maybe that's something that would make the locals happy to have us and perhaps win a few points of favor on Brewer's report card?
The fighting men will eat and drink their fill, carouse about and forget their due and pay right quick. And invite the local dwarves to feast with you, and the clans will look kinder on you too.
Exactly. Okay. That makes some sense. We'll throw a feast, or we can exchange for gold. Okay. So yeah, basically, presumably this means we get some gold, as in crowns, that we can spend for upgrades and what have you. Or throw a feast and do this to win the favor, or at least more... Or again, basically do one more thing that will have Brewer look more kindly upon us, and I think we're not quite there yet, so adding one or two more things to our list, I think we could use that right about now, and we're doing pretty well from a gold standpoint at the moment. That's actually not our bottleneck when it comes to upgrades. The wood is, at least as of right now. Of course, long term, I'm sure we could use more, but at the moment, I think this is actually a bigger concern.
Caution be damned.
Your Grace, I feel obliged to remind you we are at war with Nilfgaard, and every copper...
True, but if it's the difference between us being able to afford one more upgrade of who knows how much significance versus being able to get the support of the dwarves, I think the support of the dwarves is probably going to be a little more significant, and also it's, you know, the amount of gold we're getting, it sounds like it's not going to be that significant anyway.
Should go to building our army, I know. But we live but once, Reynard.
Meve. No, you didn't. Meve. Oh, no. Oh.
Sir Gabor, take the tokens and arrange me a feast so grand that Ebdahi himself shall hear us revel.
As Meve's force could not possibly fit in a tavern, the feast was laid out in a storehouse. Crates arranged in rows served as tables and benches, while the windows were festooned with lion's foot and pasque flower. Great barrels of mead, cognac, and vodka were rolled in, and when the soldiers saw this, they broke out in cheers and laughter that lasted till dawn.
Pour us another round, you lovable Lyrian bastards!
For he's a jolly good a jolly good dwarf.
Who was that? Oh, what? And we upgraded Gabor in the process? We also increased our morale, which there's another reason why we perhaps wanted to lower our morale before this encounter. We were able to finish this encounter fine, and then we got improved morale from it anyway. So I'm curious to see what the upgrade on Gabor is all about.
There was food and drink enough for the dwarves of the pass, who, with Meve's men, raised tankards in hand and voices in song the night through. To see them sharing tales and playing cards, one would not believe that anywhere down the mountains, through woods and across plains, humans and dwarves might, for the softest slight, leap at each other, murder in their eyes.
Now here we are all just best of buddies. Alright, well, hopefully that is also something that Bruver will look back on and say, oh, you know, those Lyrians and Rivians, they're not so bad after all. But let's take a look here. See what exactly that upgrade was all about, because, you know, if we're not crafting more units ourselves, then getting upgrades or new cards for free is certainly a nice way to improve our deck. Let's see. Beaver Place. They technically removed the other Gabor from our deck, and so now the upgraded Gabor. Okay, so it was previously 10 damage to a unit. Now it's 15. If it was destroyed, deal any remaining damage to another unit. So 5 extra damage, or play 2 trinkets from our deck, where previously I believe that was just 1. So that's twice as good in that case, although that one I don't believe ever used. It's, you know, if your trinkets by default start in your hand, it just feels like that's kind of a weird choice. I mean, there's some very niche situations I could see that potentially playing in, but they're niche, and they haven't come up yet. So, basically 5 extra damage. I mean, of course, we'll take it, and we just saw that using Gabor in that previous encounter, and in several encounters prior, has been useful for us, because it's a nice burst of damage. I mean, 15, I think that might actually be our best source of single target damage right now. So previously it was him, tied with Alzur's Thunder for 10. I suppose, technically, Becker's Dark Mirror does 15, but it's always on their highest unit, and so oftentimes that meant that wasn't going to be enough to destroy, either it wasn't going to be enough to destroy a card, or it was going to be super overkill, and therefore just didn't make but could have used just about anything else to do it as well. So, I mean, getting the extra damage, we'll take it for sure. And hopefully, Bruver will like us a little bit more for having done that, because, as I said, I think we're pretty darn close. I'd like to believe we're pretty darn close to being at the point now where we've done enough things that Bruver will like us, but we've heard that he is a tough dwarf to please, so that still may not be the case. As for right now, it appears as though we have finished everything in this, what is probably the Blackbrook Vale. I mean, like, technically this might also count as Blackbrook Vale, but and we have this main quest component down there, and we're not very far away from that. So, I mean, there might still be other encounters, points of interest further along here that we just don't yet know about, but, well, we don't know about them yet. And this looks like a settlement of some significance. What with their flags and everything? What is the deal? Oh, well, let's start with this, because this might tell us a little bit more than anything else. Okay, so we get some intel here. Point of interest we just walked past. Did see there was a question mark above some dwarves' heads over there, and there's a puzzle here. I imagine there may very well be something in this corner as well, but we did not learn about it from this notice board. Why don't we see what the deal is here? Okay, my queen. This building houses the bank of Clan Zigrin, Gabor's clan. The banker claims that should we invest now, in a few months' time, our its worth will increase 3-fold. Wording is a little confusing there, but I assume basically means whatever we invest now is going to go up by 3 times the value, so sounds too good to be true should we invest in anything. Possible gains are too great to squander. Invest a large amount, 2,500. That is a large amount. Very well, but only a modest sum. I don't wish to get swindled. Minus 500. Or I have less faith in brokers than I do in the Nilfgaardians. We move onward. How much do we trust the stockbrokers? Or the dwarven, medieval fantasy equivalents of stockbrokers? I have no idea. I mean, we obviously recognize the last name. Is that reason to be more trustful? Possibly. I mean, 2,500 is very, very aggressive. So much so that it would actually drop us below that 10,000 coin threshold, which was the threshold that we needed to do the next big upgrade, and so for that reason, I mean, if we walk away, can we come back on a later occasion? Because if we were able to still be above 2,500, or rather be still above 10,000 even after spending 2,500, I might consider it. Obviously, the potential for being swindled is high, for sure. But, I mean, you know, I just don't know what to expect, and part of me is pretty curious to see what this is all about. Because I feel like it's one of those reverse psychology things, right? Where it's you know, putting that idea in your head of like, well, you gotta be careful. You might get swindled, so you probably shouldn't invest all this stuff, and you should play it safe here and just invest 500. But I bet it's something like, if you invest 500, you know, it's not gonna pan out, and you're gonna get none of that back. Whereas if you were willing to take that big risk and you do pay 2,500, the game's like, I see what you did there, and you took the risk. You did take the risk, but we tried to catch you, or tried to trick you into not going this route, but you stuck to your guts. You stuck to your guns. You went for it, and you know, for that you'll be rewarded. So you know, I am kind of tempted to do this. Let's see though. Can we can come back? Okay. So I think we might revisit that on a later occasion, like we've done for several other encounters of that variety. I'm also curious. I want to see if there's anything down here. I want to see. Also, oh, what is this?
The sound of approaching hoofbeats made Meve turn
Uh-oh.
to see Reynard spurring on his panting horse,
Uh.
at a breakneck speed towards her.
I mean, I was not really intending to trigger some big main quest-related thing, but of course, walking fairly close to the main quest may have accidentally done so. Oh dear.
Ill tidings I bring, your grace.
Uh-oh.
Clearly. Glad tidings never arrive with such urgency.
Our scouts captured a Nilfgaardian messenger. He was traveling in disguise, and by night.
Okay.
When he realized his capture was imminent, he strove to destroy the letters he carried. We were able to salvage some, in parts.
Okay.
Anything of interest?
I mean, that, in some ways, sounds promising. Some additional information about our enemies, but at the same time, something tells me the news is not going to be good. We have not seen much of the Nilfgaardians here in Mahakam, for what it's worth, but then again, of course, it seems the Nilfgaardians are not currently fighting the dwarves. They, I believe we've heard, are technically neutral. But of course, the Nilfgaardians, they don't play fair. They don't play clean. They play dirty. And so, if they find an opportunity to use the dwarves to find an upper hand, then they might do so.
Yes, there is, I fear. Your Majesty, you must listen.
Okay.
Consider your offer accepted. Direct Meve and her force to the agreed site. We await their arrival. Your reward shall be as agreed. Hail Keritsa.
Oh no. Alright, so basically, the Nilfgaardians were trying to trap us at some location in Mahakam where Bruver would invite us in. Presumably this was intended for Bruver, or maybe some dwarf of slightly lesser esteem, but probably Bruver. And Bruver basically said, alright, if you're gonna pay up, sure, why not? I'll take the money, and we'll just basically set up Meve's assassination. And this is, again, kind of what I was getting at before, with the whole, oh yeah, well, we're dwarves, we're gonna take all this gold that we technically don't even use for our own currency, but we're just gonna hold on to it and maybe use it as a way to, sometime hundreds of years in the future, sabotage the human economy so that we can get back at them if they try to mess with us. Even though we're technically trying to remain neutral right now, yeah, but see, like, this right here is nowhere near neutral. Here's this talk of like, oh, whoa, Meve, you tried to buy weapons from the dwarves, and that's a bad sign, because the dwarves, they're trying to stay neutral. Bruver's not going to like that. Yeah, Bruver's trying to assassinate a leader, a queen of 2 of the Northern Realms, while in Mahakam soil? Like, that would immediately send a pretty big signal to all of the other Northern Realms of, hey, we can't trust the dwarves anymore. Yeah, let's go take them out. And I mean, it'd immediately be war. And so any hope of neutrality, any hope of avoiding conflict with the humans, which, you know, their whole thing seemed to be, we're trying to stay neutral for now so that we can try not to get wiped out by the humans, all that completely out the window. So, just really, really nonsensical from the dwarves, very hypocritical. So, you know, in that way, unless there's some other explanation here, just kind of seems like a fundamental flaw of the dwarven approach here. Whereas in the past, that hasn't really seemed like that's been the writing thus far has been absolutely amazing in Thronebreaker. Thus far, or this most recent set of developments with the dwarves, unless we're missing something, just has been considerably worse. But we'll see.
We might have expected as much. Nilfgaard has shown amply that it abides only by the rules it sets. Since they have not proved able to defeat me in the field, in open battle, they seek other means.
Okay. I mean, sort of. But yeah, so what are we supposed to think? The dwarves just thought, oh, well, it's so much gold that we might as well take the deal. Except we don't actually use gold, so there's no reason why they would think that. Or, oh, well, it's so much gold that even though we don't use gold right now, however far in the future in which time we might want to use gold, it will be valuable then. Oh yeah, except we're doing this because we're siding with the Nilfgaardians who are trying to take out the humans that would otherwise be attacking us, except those humans would then be destroyed by the Nilfgaardians because we're siding with the Nilfgaardians and we want them to win, and that means that the gold that we'd be saving, even though we don't use it ourselves, we would be saving to sabotage the humans, that the humans, other than the Nilfgaardians, no longer exist, except we're not going to tank the economy of the Nilfgaardians because we just sided with them. There is no logic to it. It is entirely hypocritical. It makes zero sense. It is against everything else that we've heard about the dwarves. So, sorry to say it, but at this point, writing did seem to just take a hard turn toward the substantially worse territory, but we'll see. Maybe we're missing something. Maybe we just don't have enough info yet.
I suppose the scroll bears no name.
It does not, Your Grace.
Okay. Have we interrogated the captive?
The messenger. Have you questioned him?
Naturally, Your Grace. Alas, he knows not to whom the letter is directed. He was to leave it in an agreed spot.
Okay, well, maybe if we can determine where that spot was, we can piece some of the stuff together and figure out who it was intended for.
I take it tidings of the whole affair have spread throughout the force?
Yes, Your Majesty. The witnesses were too many to keep this fact a secret.
Mm-hmm.
We must thus assume the traitor in our ranks knows it as well, and will make no attempt to retrieve the scroll. A dead end.
Okay, any other clues? Also, the traitor in our ranks? Are you referring to the dwarves? Like, which of the dwarves is against us, or do we have reason to think that one of the Lyrians or Rivians is a traitor? So there hasn't really been anything to suggest that either. This was a Nilfgaardian spy that was, from my understanding, not originally part of our group. It had a letter that was intended to be from the Nilfgaardians to the dwarves. We just don't know which dwarf. And so, in no way are the Lyrians or Rivians involved in that exchange of information. It's a trap to set up the Lyrians and Rivians, but they did not directly take part in it. It was purely of Nilfgaardian and Dwarven making. So I don't know why it seems as though perhaps suggesting that one of the Lyrians or Rivians are a traitor, but again, just odd. Very, very odd.
Have we any other leads or clues?
None, I fear, Your Majesty. We must be alert. Keep a keen eye on events as they unfold, and exercise great caution in forging new acquaintances.
Very well. Eyes wide open, all senses attuned. Yours in particular, Reynard.
Okay.
Of course, my liege.
And that does knock our morale. Whoa! So much for having high morale. Okay. Yeah, so didn't really see that one coming on several accounts. And we're still a little ways away from this main quest here. And was mostly just trying to see if there's anything else over there. And, was this going to be the meeting location, or I mean, it sounded a lot like they would have been alluding to the meeting that we were eventually planning to have with Bruver in the main location in Mahakam, the city center. So that's in part why I thought perhaps it was intended for Bruver. Oh, also, there's this point of interest over here that we may not have seen before or might have gotten from that notice board previously but didn't note. Yeah. I mean, to be blunt, the reasoning for the dwarves is just plainly stupid. So that doesn't really check out. But let's see. Is there anything here? Because there is. Let's see. Ooh, what do we have here? Your Majesty, something dwells in this house. A beast with burning red eyes and a frightening growl. Perhaps it guards something worth finding, but only a few brave souls would be able to fit inside. Not all might return. Okay, so this is an instance where if we still had Ake, we could bring him, we could tell him, go get the job done. He's good enough to do it by himself, and we'd actually get both gold and a card fragment for it. Or we could say, well, we don't have him, so we'll get the gold and we'll get the card fragment, but it'll cost us 3 recruits. Or we just walk away and say, no thanks. I mean, we need this card fragment, otherwise we're not ever going to finish this card, right? So we have a bunch of extra recruits to spare, so sorry, guys. It does finish a card. It finishes Tainted Ale, which is now complete, and so I think definitely worth it. We've not used a single recruit for crafting purposes yet, and so we have 300 in our stockpile here, if you want to refer to it as that for recruits. But let's see what the deal is with this new card. Here it is. Restraint, so can't target a boss, but mark unit and boost it by 10. After 3 turns on turn start, destroy that unit and self. Oh, so it temporarily makes a card stronger, but then after a short amount of time, then destroys it. Suppose that makes sense then, the Tainted Ale. They think it's good until it isn't, and it kills them. So we can't use that on a boss, which makes sense, I suppose. But, I mean, this also does have some synergies, so it has removal, which is great. Obviously, removal is generally best when we're trying to go after really high importance targets like bosses, but even then, there are still some good non-bosses that we might want to go after. It does also synergize with something like a Stray's Infiltrator, as it should still give us enough time. I think you play this, mark a card, power up that card, and then I think still just enough time for the Stray's Infiltrator, at least 1, possibly even 2, to put next to it and get boosted in the, well, I guess. Yeah, you could put 2 next to it. 1 would hop back over to your side, and then the other one would afterward be next to it, and that one would get boosted by the highly boosted card and come back over to our side. Maybe there's enough time for that. At least 1. And getting 10 points extra on a Stray's Infiltrator is a pretty big deal. So that's not bad. Probably still going to be something that, you know, is not going to be useful in every single situation because, again, if the only thing you want to damage or destroy is a boss, and there isn't really much else to go after, then this is not going to be a huge factor. But, I mean, that we did put in Dazbog Runestone temporarily when we were going all-out damage, but maybe we throw this in place of that and see if we can put it to use. So that's definitely a nice addition. Oh, we also have, perhaps, the exact reports from this intercepted letter. Okay, let's take a look. Consider your offer accepted. Direct Meve and her force to the agreed site. We await their arrival. Your reward shall be as agreed. And Hail Cursa is, basically the Nilfgaardian, well, common phrase? Basically the equivalent of, go Nilfgaard! Oh, what the heck? Something on this ledge? Okay, for what it's worth, we might have been down there before? No, I don't remember being to this location where there was a big dwarf with a hammer. I don't think we've been there before. I mean, we've seen normal-sized dwarves with hammers, for sure. But what is this? So I didn't read it yet, but the first thing I saw was just the -3 recruits and the morale down, and my imagination just took off. Like, well, I mean, we are standing on quite the precipice right now. Let's see, milady. We've spotted gold down there, among the debris. We can send a few soldiers to dig it up, but if the rope snaps, those rocks will serve as their final resting place. So, I mean, here's the thing. We're already on low morale. We, as we were previously stating, don't really have much need for recruits right now, or, I mean, eventually we might if we ever find ourselves crafting cards, but for the most part, we are gaining recruits faster than we are using them. So, and we still have again, the stockpile, the whole bunch of recruits waiting in the wings, just under 300 if we do this, and that, I would think, would be pretty substantial. And then we just get 180 gold. It's not a huge amount, but, I mean, if we're spending something that doesn't matter, something that probably doesn't matter, or at least matters very little, and getting a little bit of benefit out of it, then why not? Why not? Okay. So, a lot of things have happened here that have shaken things up a bit, and, you know, perhaps our perception of the dwarves and our prospects of winning their favor have changed slightly after having learned more about this potential setup they were trying to work with the Nilfgaardians to pull off, where they were, what appears to be, aiming to assassinate the queen. So, we'll have to be keeping our eyes and ears peeled here and see if, is it truly Bruver who was behind, or they were trying to coordinate with to make that happen? Or was this some lesser dwarf who realistically wasn't going to be able to pull that off, and so we don't need to be too worried about some ulterior motives from the most significant of all the dwarves in Mahakam? Well, only time will tell, and I think this is a good place for us to stop here, so thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.